Guys, I'm one of you. I'm gonna get emotional because when I was making these notes, I had to relive days I didn't want to live because I've worked really hard. I come up here, I don't get the swelling in my legs or my arms. I get it through my tummy, so I just look really big. And I turn shades of blue, but not like really bright blue. And the place I swell right here. I had neck surgery in 2008. My neck surgery was 100% successful. My neck is not put together anatomically correct. I had a nerve bundle going into my left arm that had been crushed for years. It had been like that. So by the time it began to tell me that it hurt, and my doctor told me, he said, your body does not process pain well. In other words, it had been hurting a long time and my body never registered it. By the time it began to scream at me, I had a dangly arm. So I've had people in the CRPS community, they said, aren't you just so upset that you even had surgery? Well, no, I was 38 years old, worked with the school district, did administration, and I had a dangly arm. I don't know how many people who have a dangly arm and don't have a disease, have never had anything chronic, want a dangly arm. And it hurt. So I went to the best neurosurgeon in San Antonio, who literally writes the literature on the surgery he did. It's taught in medical schools. So I had the best of the best. That wasn't the problem. The problem was my body's response to the surgery. After I had the surgery, I kept telling him, there's something in here hurting. And he's like, you've had neck surgery. Well, that's what I kind of figured, but I needed to make sure. So that's what he kept saying. You've had surgery, it's gonna hurt. But it didn't go away. So I went to see him probably 3 months, and he said, Mrs. Martinez, I'm gonna send you to a pain management doctor. He said, she's extremely conservative, so I really think that this is the answer for you. Well, I went to see her. And as time went by, I began to tell her, because I've been to have more issues. My fingers were becoming tingly. These 2 fingers didn't want to work. My elbow was hurting. I found that I typed all day long, I worked at an alternative school. I dealt with kids that nobody else wants to deal with. I needed to have my emotional energy. I needed to have my physical energy, and this was taking it out of me. I'll never forget, sat in front of her. This woman is very known in San Antonio. Now, one thing I want you to know about San Antonio, if you have to have CRPS, it's a great city to be in because we have more military bases than you've ever heard of. A lot of our doctors come through the VA hospitals and they do fellowships. So after finding all that out, it was really funny to come across one who sat across from me, tapped me on my hand condescendingly. At that time I was 39, I'm now 50. She said, Mrs. Martinez, I'm your age. You've got a little bit of arthritis in that hand and you just need to learn how to handle pain. I didn't know at that time. Nobody told me that there's this opportunistic disease out there that is gonna come in, chop you off at the knees. And I worked like that for 2 years. I saw her for 2 years. I didn't know that anything like this existed. Did the interventions with her for 2 years. And in February of 2010, I was sitting at my desk at work, minding my own business, doing my work like I always did, and instantaneously, the place where they had made the roto-rooter hole in my neck for the cervical miter, instantaneously, it was like lava, covered the top of my head, and instantaneously, I was on the floor, hysterical. Thank God they were gonna call an ambulance. My husband was 5 minutes away. Came and picked me up. She said, oh yeah, I'll see you immediately. And you know what she said to me when I walked in that day? She said, oh, something's really wrong. And at that point, I'm like, okay, so she sent me back to the neurosurgeon who did the surgery. Now, I am by nature. When you meet me, this is it. Guys, you're gonna meet me out there, I'm the same. At home, I'm the same. This is me. But the day that the neurosurgeon saw me, and I tend to look at life as, there's more light than dark. But I walked out to the car. My husband had waited downstairs for me. And I walked out to the car and I said, honey, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't know what's wrong. I said, but the look in his eyes was like somebody had died. And I said, he's sending me to another specialist. And I said, I don't know what's wrong. I said, but I know it's something really bad. And the man, he ran some tests, sent me with me and my test. Had the, little things poked in you to see how your nerves are conducting. Found out that I have some nerves that are really conducting like really odd. And I went to his colleague, who had been the chief of neurosurgery at SAMC. And if you don't know much about SAMC, they can have a guy severely injured in Afghanistan, have them at SAMC in less than 24 hours. The reason San Antonio is so good at CRPS is because our wounded warriors come back with this disease. The military's been using ketamine for way longer than it was used in this community. So a lot of our doctors, a lot of our people in San Antonio come out of that system. The neurosurgeon who diagnosed me did. And the day that I walked in was April the 1st of all days. I walked into his office on April the 1st. And I just looked at him. So he tells me about CRPS. He tells me what it is. And I just looked at him and I said, Dr. Adkins, I just want my normal life back. His response, he leaned his head against the back of the wall. And he sat up with tears in his eyes. And he said, Mrs. Martinez, you're going to have to find new normal. I didn't even know what that meant. Within 1 week of the initial incident at my school, it had mirrored from my eyes. So I have CRPS 1 and 2. This side has nerve damage. This side doesn't. My legs don't. My intestines don't. My stomach don't. My esophagus doesn't. This stuff within 9 months went completely through my whole body and began to go systemic. The worst thing, I think, in all of this was I got a diagnosis. My daughter was a senior in high school. My son's a junior in high school. My husband's in Corpus that day doing work. I come home to a quiet house, and nobody had told me how to live with the disease. I had words. I didn't even have paper. He had given me a business card for a new pain management doctor. He said, Mrs. Martinez, go home and do your research because you're going to run into doctors that don't even know this disease. So I never intended to start a support group. But that day I typed in San Antonio and CRPS and nothing came up. And I decided right then and there nobody else was going to feel that lonely. Because I was sitting at my computer before my kids came home from school and I was like, how do I tell them? It was going to be, I called the new pain management doctor's office. It's going to be 6 weeks before I could get to see him. There's nobody to call in the meantime. So I began to do exactly what he told me to do. I began to research. Now I made a public page on Facebook. Just San Antonio, RSD, CRPS, and all I was going to do was post articles because I was going to do my research. I first found Dr. Chopra, and I'm not name dropping here today, but I went to YouTube and the first doctor I found was Dr. Chopra. I just absolutely watched every video. I've seen Dr. Getson's videos. I've seen every RSD, and even now about every 2 to 3 months I watch a video because the information either always hits me new, I learn something new, I have new symptoms, whatever it is, but I need that. So I began to find little articles and I began to post. I'm not sure it's the same way today, but then when you would make a page on Facebook, you also had the opportunity to start a group. I had no intention of starting a group except it came with it. And what happened was at that time it was just public and open. What I began to find is that people were beginning to ask me questions because they had typed in San Antonio and CRPS and there was a resource. Here I am, brand new diagnosed, really don't know anything yet, and I realized there was a need. And if there was nobody in San Antonio who could fill it, then I must now have a mission. I'm 50 years old. I've been married for 30 years. I have 2 adult children, 27 and 25. I've always viewed my life as a mission. When I worked for the school district, I particularly wanted to work with at-risk kids because my life is a mission. And so a mission was dropped in my lap. I didn't know from the time that I was diagnosed, April the 1st, by August of that year, because as I worked in the school administration, We had the summer off. I did not know that by August, it would have ravaged so much I couldn't go back to work. By May of the next year, I was barely walking. I was shuffling, hanging on to my husband, shuffling. I was weeks away from being in a wheelchair when my doctor finally got spinal cord stimulation approved. I'm going to tell you mine works a little bit different. I have the burst technology. Because my CRPS is so widespread, because it affects so many organs, I hurt from my skin, through my bones, through the fascia, through my organs. For a long time, my stomach was so sensitive, I could feel when my food was digesting and going into my intestines. Horrific sensation. But what the spinal cord stimulator did for me right away, the second they turned that thing on, was it gave strength to my legs. I've been walking since 2011 only because my spinal cord stimulator. It gives me I have extreme pain in my neck where it started, so it gives me excellent pain relief in my neck. Throughout my body, there's pain here and there. So I'm not here advocating anything because what I told you was there wasn't a map. What I want to do today is I want to offer you some points on the map because each of our journeys is different. I shared my story because every story in here about how CRPS started is different. Our maps are different. But what I'd like for you to do is go home and start assimilating for wherever you are in the journey, a point of light. So I'd like to talk to you about the light side of CRPS because there is a light side. Real quick, I want to go over the first part of me, was the spirit. Guys, I was severely abused as a child. I know how strong I am. I was sexually abused, I was physically abused, I was emotionally abused. My spirit was strong enough to believe at 20 that I could move from Houston to Denver on a job that was found in the classified ads, being a nanny for 2 kids and a puppy. And it was not just any puppy, it was a pug. And every time he'd get in the water, he'd drown. So I was always resuscitating the puppy. And so, you know what? I know I'm tough. Then I had enough spirit in me to believe that despite all the abuse and everything that had gone on, that I could actually get married and have a family and be successful. And I did. By 25, my husband and I, who asked me to marry him the first night he met me, I love my story, we had 2 kids by 25. And everything that went, my husband's from Mexico. He is a first-generation immigrant. So we were building from the ground up because he was just beginning his career here. None of his family had ever lived here. He has a 3rd-grade education that he got in Mexico. So my husband's had to work super duper hard, but I paired my life with this man because I believed in his mission. I know how strong I am. This disease began to wear at that. I began to wonder every day. My spirit began to have a dialogue with me, and here's how the dialogue went every single day. You're dying. You're dying. You're dying, you're dying, you're dying. You're dying, you're dying. You're dying, you're dying, you're dying. You're dying. That's the only thing that would, my spirit. And yet, somewhere in there, there's a spark. I don't know how that spark stayed there because everything in me was saying you were dying. I want to tell you, tap into your spirit. I wanted to give a definition just so that we were all on the same page, but spirit, the core of a person, the essence of who I am, my being. Now, it's very easy when you're in a healthy body to be everything: courageous, bright, smart. I'm creative. I'm fashionable. Look how I decorated my house. We have, our spirit is so easy to show. Now take all of that away. Take away my cute shoes and my cute clothes. Take away my legs. Take away my desire that once my kids graduated from high school, Mom was finally going to go back to school and do what I'd always wanted to do, get my degree in psychology. Take that away. Take your dreams away. Take sex off the table for your husband. My husband started feeling a certain kind of way, and I'm sorry if I'm being too blunt here, but my husband's my passion. I adore him. Take away something that we share that's in common only to us. because everything hurts so bad. Oh, stand up and have your bladder released just because. How feminine is that? I mean, and then, God forbid, the intestines started to go. You want to talk about just how many pairs of underwear I've thrown out because I was like, I'm not cleaning that. Your spirit begins to erode and erode. So how do we keep it? First of all, explore, who am I? In defining new normal, I had to remember, who am I? Take everything away, who am I? And I had to remember, as a kid, I loved to skip. I never walked anywhere. I loved to skip. I loved flowers. I loved being outside. And there was a part of me that had to get back to that little girl and what she loved. And how could I reincorporate her into this place that was so bleak? What do I love? I love my husband. I love my kids. I had to hang on to that. What have I overcome? Guys, there's not one of us in this room that doesn't have a story. Every single one of us has a story of what we've already overcome. One of the definitions of success is looking back at what we've already come and knowing that history repeats itself, and so I'm going to do that again. Somehow in the CRPS journey, I'm going to do that again. And how do I make this work for me? The second part of this was mind. The mind is the ability for rational thought. Mind is light, as to enlighten, not to be dark, and to become aware. Guys, be very, very careful when you're dealing with your mind. Carolyn Leaf is a renowned world neuroscientist. One of the things that she talks about is that now they're doing brain imaging where they can actually see neurons and how these things function and work. When people are in a negative environment with negative self-talk, their neurons look like steel wool. The second that person begins to hear a positive message, positive words, do you know that their neurons look like green trees? Be very careful what you hear. Be very careful in this process who you align with. I'm aligned with people. I'm going to tell you, my friends are right there. My friends are right there. There's some of my group members here. Beth Strang, who somehow in cyberspace found me when I was just like floundering. She has CRPS. She lives in Atlanta. And I started with the foundation of, Maria, I don't know how bad this is going to get, but it doesn't matter how bad it gets. You're going to be able to do this. Every day, if you have to find a podcast that tells you how you can make it and how you can do it, listen to that until you can begin to feel it. And if you're surrounded by people who are just constantly telling you how awful, because it's an awful disease, let's just be honest. But if you have people around you that don't believe that you can live and be successful with this disease, lose them. Because I have enough negative going on in here with what's going on. I don't need to hear it here. Mind is very important. I'm going to stop this part with just this. I promise, Jim, I'm hurrying. He said 25 minutes. I think I'm already over. Oh, my God. I'm not going to. But real quick, there's a story, and it's a true story. There was this warship out in the sea, and there was a really cocky captain in this warship, and he saw a blip. There's a storm, and he saw a blip. Y'all have heard the story. He saw a blip on the radar. So he gets on his booming radio, and he says, "You must move, I am a warship." And the other guy doesn't show his hand. He said, "No, you're going to have to move." "No, you got to move, I am the warship." And there's actual dialogue on YouTube of this. Well, finally, the one who's saying he's not going to move gives away his hand. He said, "You're going to have to move because I'm the lighthouse." Guys, I had a doctor just recently. I walked into his office, and he said, "Maria," he said, "I know that you're in a lot of pain." He said, "How do you deal with this pain?" And I asked him, I said, "How do you view yourself?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "When you talk into yourself, your self-talk," I said, you know, psyche and all that. I said, "Are you one or many?" He's like, "No, I'm one." And I said, "I'm not anymore, I'm two." This bratty body who always wants to hurt, always wants to be in pain. I limp in the mornings. Y'all should see me in the mornings when I get up. It's not pretty. From the time I wake up in the morning, it tells me it doesn't want to get out of bed. It doesn't want to eat. It doesn't want to go outside. It never wants to go anywhere. It hates to bathe. My friend Christine saw me when I got out of the shower this morning. I have a conniption. This whole body falls apart every time it's bathed. It thinks that we've like run 50 miles. So you know what? I had to become two because my body needed executive. It needed a lighthouse. Guys, I'm the lighthouse. I'm not the ship. I'm the lighthouse. And every day when I wake up, I make an assessment right away. How much pain am I in? What did I do yesterday? What is the weather? What are the factors? And then I make every choice executively, despite what my body says, about what we are going to do today. I'm two. Today you're here in the executive force because this guy is very unhappy. Very, very unhappy. Third part, real quick, body. The body is the vehicle I live in. Light is a burden that is not heavy, and it's easier to carry than a heavy load. My first point, I'm not sure that I really covered it, but in spirit, physical light is defined as an electrical field tied up with a magnetic field flying through space. Guys, I'm tied up with some beautiful people. Connect with fabulous people. Connect with, and you know what, I'm going to say this too. Everybody in your circle should not have CRPS. I need to have places and spaces that I go into and I talk about people's kids, their trip to the lake, the latest flower they planted. Oh my God, they planted a tree. Oh, what's your recipe? Oh my God, that's good. Have places. And I even, before I go to these places, I even tell myself, we are not talking about CRPS. And there's something amazing that happens in here. Life begins to happen in here. Do you know that your brain, when you watch somebody doing something, do you know that your brain processes the information as if you're doing it? So let's say I had somebody who told me, she said, I don't want to go to the lake. She said, because I can't do everything at the lake anymore. She went to the lake, and she messaged me, like, I just feel so great about going to the lake. Even though she sat and watched, because when we watch people do things, our brain processes it, everything in your brain lights up as if you're doing it. Go to those places. Even if you have to sit on the sidelines, until maybe you can acclimate back into it, go to those places. Enjoy the laughter. You may not feel like laughing. Enjoy the laughter. We need those endorphins in our body activated. We need to have that serotonin going through us. We need that dopamine. And sometimes just by assimilating into a place, our bodies react as if we're the ones experiencing it. Real quick, a really good medical team is important for your body. Dr. Ricardo Alvarado is my pain management doctor, and I'll never forget when they called me about doing ketamine infusions in 2016, my first thing was, well, I've never been able to get Medicare to pay for those. And he's like, let us fight for you. Now, I hadn't had a doctor say that to me yet. I'm not saying that every doctor is going to say that, but you know what? You need to have doctors on your team that really are working for you. My primary care physician, the reason I'm standing here today, when he first started seeing me, he saw me 4 times a year, did blood work before each visit, and that was part of, you remember I told you that dialogue that I was dying? He was the one who counteracted that, because he's like, no, Maria, you're really healthy. He even does mental health checks a couple of times a year at that point. And when he saw that mentally I was really low and he didn't like what my family was saying to me, he sent me to a therapist. I had several sessions with a cognitive behavioral therapist who turned my thinking upside down about how I was thinking about the disease. But have people on your team, have people in your support team that are looking out for you like that. I didn't know I needed a therapist, but he saw that. He heard my family say that. And don't be afraid to ask for help. If you're sitting in front of your primary care physician and things just aren't, just let them know, you know what, I'm not doing so good right now. Well, what's changed? Maybe the pain hasn't changed, but you know what? I'm not functioning as well as my home. I'm not enjoying my social circles. I don't want to go anywhere. And you know what? Sometimes we're so afraid that we're going to be judged because that's not what healthy people say. But guess what? When you have doctors on your team that want to do a team approach, that's exactly what they're going to want to hear so that they can get other people involved in your approach. Be kind to yourself. Self-talk is so awful with this disease. I've told myself I'm fat. I've told myself I'm ugly. With a why? Carly Simon has this song, and it says, the words of the lyrics go, sorry that your mother dropped you on your head. Maybe her mother dropped her too. In the end, we all get dropped. We all get black and blue. Guys, it's not why me. It's something's going to happen to everybody. You live long enough, I don't care who you are, something's going to happen. For us, it was this. Be kind to yourself. Love yourself. Love yourself enough that everything they said today. In my group, we have 250 people. Every single, and I really mean this, every single person who has made dietary changes, every single person who's looked and finally found a treatment that does something for them, every single person that's added some sort of extra. We have people that do water aerobics. We have some who do Pilates. We have some who do Tai Chi. We have people who all they can do is like the little hand bike. They'll do that while they're watching TV. I have a 1.5 pound weight. She can't do more than that. But while she's watching TV, she's doing her 1.5 pound weights. 15 minutes a day is all it is, guys. On my very worst days, I do something 15 minutes a day. Now, I was bedridden for 3 to 4 years of this disease. So when I went to see my doctor in March, he told me, he said, because I've been really concerned about all this inflammation, and he said, well, Mrs. Martinez, we have some things against us. He said, first of all, you're 50. All my doctors keep reminding me that I'm 50. Number 2, he said, we're going to check you in August to see where your hormones are. You know, CRPS and hormones changes in hormones don't do too good. I don't know. I had a hysterectomy when I was 25. I have no idea where I am in the hormone continuum. And I think that between all the sweating of CRPS and everything else, it might have masked menopause altogether. So I don't know. And if it hasn't happened yet, dear God, the sweating from menopause and the sweating from CRPS, I'm going to float that battleship. So be kind to yourself. Be kind when you're sweaty and you put on your makeup and you sweat all your makeup. I've been there. One of the reasons I keep my hair short is because sometimes I sweat so bad, my hair drips. So I cut it all off. Oh, here's another thing. With your body, be creative. Do you like color? I like short anyway. And then I was thinking, I want pink hair. I knew my husband was going to do cotton candy pink. This is called rose gold. So when he said, is that pink? And I said, no, honey, that's rose gold. Oh, there's an app for that. If you can't shop because your body, like me, my body hates shopping. I have found an app for everything I want. Oh, this hair color came from Amazon. I got 2 boxes for less than $20. So I have 2 more months that I can actually keep my hair this color. I really like it. Guys, find a way, modify your life in such a way that you can do what you love. Find out if it's an app. Find out if it's a small community thing. Find out, oh, book clubs. I have a friend who does a book club. I have a friend who just wrote a book. I have friends who, with CRPS, skydive, ride motorcycles. I have friends with CRPS who, I have a young lady in my group who started her family. She's pregnant with a baby girl. Didn't think she'd ever get pregnant with CRPS. Didn't think she'd ever, but you know what happens is it's like all these debates start from somewhere. Start from a place. Manage your emotional energy. Eat healthy. Decide where you want to use don't let people use up your physical energy. I only have this much. My husband, my kids both got married last year. One gave me 30 days notice and one gave me 2 days. Because I conserve my energy. Oh, and my daughter met her husband on Xbox 360. No, Xbox One. Don't let me get that wrong. Xbox One playing Destiny. Turns out he's a really great guy, IT guy. His parents work for Microsoft. They live north of Seattle now. I had the energy to get on a plane, fly for 2 days. That's all with my husband and I. We were there for 2 days to see our daughter get married in the Columbia Tower. It's the big Batman Tower in the downtown Seattle. My son, who called me on a Thursday, 6 weeks later, our son called us on a Thursday that he was getting married on Saturday. If you save your energy, when these things come up, you're actually going to have energy to do it. So I don't have a problem saying no. I have no problem saying no. I don't have any problem cutting people out of my life who are toxic either. Manage those people. Decide where they need to be in your bullseye of life, because if you're using all your emotional energy and putting out all the time, not only is that your emotional energy, eventually it's your physical energy as well. I want to go back to the definition of light, tied up with. Everything you do for yourself, be very selfish with this disease. From the time you get up in the morning. I don't care if you have little kids in your house. The first thing you think about is, mama. What does mama need? Because if mama's taken care of, guys, my daughter gave up a college scholarship, lived with us. I was so afraid she was never going to have any relationship because when I was bedridden, my daughter gave up her life, would crawl in the shower and bathe me because I couldn't bathe myself. So when I was able, about the time that she was off, I was doing better physically than I ever had. It is so important that it doesn't, wherever you are now, I promise you this, the research is out there. I follow Stanford. Guys follow Stanford Pain. Oh my God, they're doing brain imaging. They're finding out where the pain comes from, RSDSA. Oh, find research that's positive because it's out there and it's coming, and we just have to keep working and we have to be patient while the doctors are unraveling our ball for us. I'm going to end with this. Kirsten is a Marine in our group, and she posted this, and I thought this was amazing. She said, we've all heard of Semper Fidelis, you know, always faithful, good Marine. She said, well, tongue-in-cheek, they have Semper Gumby, which means, she said, in the Marines, when whatever you're doing, something at any point can go wrong. So it means always be flexible. Guys, Semper Gumby. Semper Gumby. It's a point on the map. Semper Gumby.